You're afraid of white people becoming the minority? Good heavens, why? Are minorities treated differently?
Now, don't hate on this original poster, but this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Let me enlighten you before you think to put up another gaslighting post like this. They're not after black uteruses. They want yours. Right now, if a black woman was to go to a hospital in Texas and want an abortion, they would be more than happy to fucking give that woman an abortion. See, what's going on is your white men are panicking because your numbers are declining. So what do? They start taking your reproductive rights. Stop trying to make this a black people, all women issue, because it's not. You know goddamn well it's not. They've been trying to eradicate our races for years. They're not going to stop now. Stop trying to gaslight us into getting into a fight that you guys started in the first place. My cousin actually got a message. Do you know how many white women were out there during Black Lives Matter? Did you want a fucking cookie? Who started Black Lives Matter? Black women. The first Pride protest. A black woman. The fucking vote this year. You guessed it, black women. We don't need lessons in protesting. You do.
Happy Monday, folks. We have just a handful of transits to talk about this week, a couple on the more challenging side of things, a couple on the more pleasant side. And then we're ending this week with a full moon in Sagittarius, which is an excellent time to release a limiting belief. So that's something to consider as we go through the week here, and to keep in mind as we talk about the transits building up to Sunday, so you can figure out what that belief is for you that you'd like to release. Now, today is Monday, May 25th, and this morning, the moon entered relational, artistic, balanced Libra. And then tonight, or actually just after midnight tomorrow morning, for you all on the East Coast, we have one of those challenging transits that I mentioned, with Mars squaring Pluto from 5 degrees of Taurus to 5 degrees of Aquarius. This is a challenging aspect between two challenging planets. So it's probably going to be pretty challenging, pretty uncomfortable, and we've already sort of been feeling this energy building up to this evening. With this transit, we have the friction of a square between two stubborn fixed signs, neither of which really wants to budge. Traditional Taurus and then innovative Aquarius. So with Mars and Pluto squaring each other from these signs, we may be experiencing power struggles around ego, maybe around sexuality. We can definitely anticipate some fights, some conflict. And I think you want to be careful under this transit of not trying to force somebody to see or understand or acknowledge something that they're not open or ready for. We can make progress in those areas under this transit, but not if we're applying too much force to our interactions. But if we're talking about how you're working internally within yourself, with this transit, you might be able to uncover something deep in your subconscious that's been sapping your energy. So this can be helpful if we approach it through intentional shadow work, facing our fears. We can work through some kind of blockage and access more empowerment and maybe discover something to release under that full moon on Sunday. So that shows how there are some helpful aspects to challenging planets and transits like this. We could also see this Mars square to Pluto as an opportunity to bravely face corrupt systems of power and fighting that good fight for liberation, which is challenging, of course, to do, but very important, right? So that's today. Then tomorrow, Tuesday, May 26th, we have a much more pleasant Pluto transit with the Sun trining Pluto from 5 degrees of Gemini to 5 degrees of Aquarius. So this is still related to those transformational and alchemical processes of Pluto and the revolutionary liberatory energy of Aquarius. But now that transformation is less forced. It's flowing more easily and more naturally. But that also means that this is one of those transits that could be easier to just ignore and let it pass by unless we choose to tap into it. Now, Pluto is always inherently related to threatening truths, survival mechanisms, repressed psychological wounds. So it's never like a super fun time. But now this trine can help us to access that deep healing of Pluto a little bit more easily. So Tuesday is a great day to work on the mental plane, changing your mind, transforming your thoughts and ideas, deepening your communication, empowering your voice. And then the Sun in Gemini brings this flexibility, adaptability, curiosity, and learning energized by the Sun. So this transit is an invitation to reorient our energy from that scattered Gemini stuff we were talking about last week toward Pluto, which asks, what is really of urgent importance in your life? What priorities are you going to look back on from your deathbed and try to really streamline from that perspective? And of course, this transit might also help us to kickstart some kind of process of release for Sunday's full moon. Then on Wednesday, May 27th, the moon moves into Pluto's home sign of spooky, sultry, secretive Scorpio in the evening. And then the evening of Thursday, May 28th is going to bring us the other really challenging transit of this week, which is a Venus square to Saturn from exactly 12 degrees of Cancer to 12 degrees of Aries. Now, this repeats some of the themes I discussed last week when Venus was squaring Neptune. So we have that Aries call toward brave, risky action, conflicting with that Cancerian desire to kind of just retreat and hide under the covers. But now with Venus squaring Saturn, we might be feeling more tense, stiff, tight, and like unbalanced, dysregulated, maybe even kind of pessimistic and hopeless and despairing. This is the kind of transit that can really activate a scarcity mindset around finances and resources. It might bring up some creative blockages to work through. It could indicate struggles between the structures of society represented by Saturn and justice, equality, the rights of femmes and queer and trans folks as represented by Neptune. And of course, this transit could be also very challenging in our personal relationships, activating feelings of loneliness, isolation, restriction, scarcity. So depending on who you are and what you're going through right now, it might be helpful actually to choose some intentional solitude around this day, or on the other hand, to work on overcoming the obstacle of reaching out to other people if that's more the kind of work you need to do. Either way, though, we can harness some of that Saturn energy to work through challenges in these Venus areas of our lives, thinking about long-term commitment, maturation, and the hard work it takes to build and grow. And once again, this transit might help us to identify some limiting beliefs to release under the full moon this weekend. There's nothing to report here on Friday, May 25th. And then on the morning of Saturday, May 30th, the moon will move into expansive, adventurous, philosophical Sagittarius, which brings us to Sunday, May 31st. In the early morning, we'll have that full moon at 10 degrees of Sagittarius, with the sun opposite the zodiac, of course, at 10 degrees of Gemini. As always, a full moon is the peak of the lunar cycle, bringing heightened emotions that are more fully illuminated for reflection. It's a time to think back on the intentions and seeds that you planted 2 weeks ago during that new moon in Taurus, and to check in on the progress of those goals, recalibrate, pull any weeds that are springing up around those little seedlings. Thinking about Sagittarius, this is the sign of beliefs, philosophy, religion, higher education, law, publishing, foreign travel, and big adventures. Anything that has to do with expanding our big picture perspective and worldview. Think about the archer's arrow, the symbol of Sagittarius, flying over the landscape and seeing everything from that bird's eye perspective, right? And then a full moon, as you may know, is a great time to release pretty much anything. Ergo, this Sagittarius full moon is an opportunity to release a limiting belief that's holding you back in life. Now, that limiting belief could be related to the Taurus new moon that started this cycle. Maybe it has something to do with your values, your relationship to resources, to your own physical body, or to your sense of self-worth. That could also be something that you uncovered over the course of the week, or something personal based on what's happening in your own life, your own birth chart. And this full moon will really be helped along by all of the outer transpersonal planets. The planet Uranus will be opposite the full moon right next to the sun, and that'll help to shake us awake, help to connect with our authentic selves, to liberate more easily from our limitations, so that helps. This full moon will be in a trine to Saturn and Neptune in Aries, bringing more of a flow of courage, action, and change. This full moon will also be sextile to Pluto in Aquarius, and that stimulates more depth, transformation, and empowerment like we've been talking about with the Pluto transits this week. Finally, this full moon will be square to the lunar nodes, and that's a bit more of a challenging aspect, but it means that this full moon can actually be a helpful step in our collective spiritual evolution as the lunar nodes are getting ready to move out of Virgo and Pisces this summer. So one of the final chances to wrap up some lessons there. Now, one other transit is happening this day on Sunday evening that will help us with our full moon magics. And that is a Mercury sextile to Chiron from 29 degrees of Gemini to 29 degrees of Aries. This kind of transit helps to stimulate healing through the mercurial activities of thinking, writing, and talking in our communities, in our various platonic relationships. And Mercury rules Gemini, where the sun currently is. And Chiron is a centaur connected to the sign of Sagittarius, where the moon is for this full moon. So this is just a great combination to help tie everything together, to help us release limiting beliefs, invite in more spaciousness, healing, compassion, and wisdom into our lives. So, happy full moon. That's it for this week's astrological weather report. I'm Alice Pope. Logan, back to you.
Why would I chill out when the fire within me is what keeps me warm? I don't have to wear a jacket when I go out. I'm bundled up in a blanket of my own fury. Chill out. Maybe you should learn how to heat up.
good on me too. There's nothing to protect, there's no more to defend. We're on the run outside, evil and good and pretend. Daring all we preach.
Sometimes God will put people in your life to teach you a lesson, but sometimes God will put somebody in your life to teach them a lesson, which may result in you whooping they fucking ass.
Well, hello. Here we are with another installment of Lara Listens, our weekly delve into my vinyl collection. And this week, we've got two really good ones for you. Very different, but both equally indispensable. First one is The Sufferer and the Witness by Rise Against. Now, we've done another Rise Against album. They are one of my favorite bands. They are just absolutely indispensable. Tim McIlrath's voice is, like, I think one of the 10 best rock voices of all time. But also they're, like, very political, very encouraging. Their logo, let me just show you the back of this. Their logo's not on the album itself, but just have a little look-see there. Yeah, this one has some of the songs of theirs that are most well-known, that are probably most popular. They had a video for Prayer of the Refugee. Prayer of the Refugee is such a great song. Really, listen to that one. And Survive is another one of the really popular ones from this one. My favorite one on this one is, it's a bonus track on the vinyl, and it's called But Tonight We Dance. Tomorrow we might wake in servitude and service. I will give you everything if only you would have it. Tomorrow we may sweat and toil. Our hands may quiver, caked with soil. Tomorrow we'll give it one last chance. But tonight we dance. But tonight we dance. It's so good. And the entire band is like fully realized. Drumming is amazing. Guitar is amazing. I mean, just really, really fucking solid act. And again, one of the few musical acts, modern musical acts that is just explicitly like political. They lean into the fact that they are like for the people. And of course, like all bands of this type, we wish they would say and do more, even than they have. But, I really have been thinking a lot these days about how a lot of our desire for a better world has turned a lot of us into these weird maximalists who don't appreciate what is actually in front of us and don't know how to take yes for an answer, frankly. And there are lots of people who are full-on active Zionists, or people who have never said anything politically, or people who actively stay out of politics, or people who are actively MAGA, and like, you know, people people are going to show up imperfectly, and people with larger platforms do deserve more criticism, but also it should be understood that when people actually have that much of a platform and they step out and they still do actually speak up for what's right, they face as much backlash as they do. And it's hard. I mean, it is definitely difficult. I mean, I know as a content creator, my mistakes are amplified just ever so much. And so that's the thing. But anyway, The Sufferer and the Witness by Rise Against, y'all. Get into it. And now next, you're going to love this one. Oh yeah, which is actually how the album starts. It is. I was tempted to do a little Prince impersonation, but we weren't ready for that. I don't think y'all are ready for that, much less me. This is "Sign of the Times" by Prince. Just such an iconic album. Starts with "Sign of the Times," which is kind of about, like, you know, politics, and, like, let's be honest, Prince's political takes were a little bit weird sometimes. I think Prince was a Jehovah's Witness, so it goes a little back and forth. But one thing Prince did not play about was black people. Like, Prince did not play, and was all about it. And also one of the shadiest humans ever to walk the earth. Just, gotta love that man. Also "Play in the Sunshine," which is one of his more just fun songs, and it's a song that reminds me that he was very much influenced by people like Sly. We talked about Sly and the Family Stone. "Play in the Sunshine" is very much of that sort of just like positive, ebullient, not that heady, because Prince could be kind of heady, and, you know, like kind of deep, like a little like dark isn't really the right word, but just very cerebral in a way. And "Play in the Sunshine" is like one of the ones where it just kind of like lets go, and it's just a really fun song. As is "Housequake." In "Housequake" is the one that follows "Play in the Sunshine." The Ballad of Dorothy Parker. Here's the back of the album. Yeah. And actually, let me show you the internals as well, because I keep forgetting that a lot of these albums have art even on the inside. Check out the fit. Can we talk about the shoes? Okay, let's talk about these shoes. Let's talk about them. And honestly, I need an outfit like this, maybe a little bit longer in the skirt, you know, but basically the same thing. On the back of this one is lyrics, and since it is a 2-album set, we are graced with another image of the artist himself. Just, you know, lovely, and more lyrics on the back of that one. And yeah, this album is one of my favorite Prince albums, and it has a song on it called "If I Was Your Girlfriend," that for reasons which I did not understand at the time, but would be no surprise to anyone who knows me personally, why that song was so weirdly resonant to me. Just listen to it. It is, let's just say, I mean, and look, I'm not putting anything on Prince that he did not put on himself. Prince did not claim to be non-binary, even though he literally had like an androgyny symbol as a sign. But let's just say "If I Was Your Girlfriend" is kind of like a non-binary lesbian, or a proto non-binary lesbian anthem. If you know, you know. Just great songs, everything all the way through. "You Got the Look," "Slow Love." Oh, so much better when we take it easy, so much better when we take it slow. Let's go. And "Adore," of course. Prince, I wonder what Prince would be doing right now with everything that's going on in Minneapolis and Minnesota, where, you know, Paisley Park is. And I bet that he would be doing the absolute most. And, you know, again, another artist with a very suspicious death. People say that, let me just put it like this. ACAB also includes doctors, unfortunately. Doctors get too much power to decide life and death. They get to decide who is well, who is not, mentally or otherwise. And when it comes to medications and things of that nature, who knows? Who knows? Let's all always remember that Martin Luther King Jr. survived the shooting and died in the hospital for reasons. And actually, before you accuse me of being a conspiracy theorist, his family won a civil suit. Okay? His family won a civil suit, essentially proving that such was the case. So, don't at me. Look it up. Okay? Go consult a history book before you argue with me. Anyway, y'all, Sign of the Times by the inimitable and amazing, and there will never be another, Prince. Get into it. And now, we're going to go into our next segment.
Cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance.
more dissidence and less indifference. Don't get quiet now. If there was ever a time to speak, it's right fucking now. Do you ever think you'd be throwing ass at the end of the world? Me neither. But here the fuck we are.
Anarchists like to distinguish their relationship to action as outside the liberal conception of politics. The public sphere, policy, and bureaucratic management. If politics represents a split in our lives, one wedge of our alienation, just like our work life, inane work for abstract currency, then we don't want to think about our everyday actions, even those that partake in the long revolutionary struggle to change the world, as politics. For these reasons, anarchists will abjure politics and even the term activism, since these concepts accept the terms and divisions of the structure we are trying to destroy. In a liberated world, these distinctions would be meaningless. We aren't looking for a mere political revolution, but a complete social revolution. One commonly referenced example of this erasure of the political distinction is the Black Panther Party's breakfast program. Providing kids with breakfast seemed innocuous enough, though obviously necessary. The Panthers knew this basic necessity was just as political as any direct action. Firstly, because it provided people with what they needed outside the structures of the state. And secondly, because it became a space for political practice to be shared and enacted through building community. FBI head J. Edgar Hoover considered the breakfast program to be one of the biggest threats to the U.S. government and its attempt to stop the Panthers, which shows how something as simple as free food can be seen as a direct confrontation with the state. Wow!
Well, hello. This show is called The Lie They Made Real because it is the one of our 12 values, the second of our 12 values, and that is anti-racism. Because, as I often say, and as remains true and is very true, and the dichotomy that we need to keep in mind, race is fake. It's fucking fake. It's not real. Okay, there's nothing real about it. Nothing, even like, conversations around hair, like 4C hair or 2B, whatever. Even those don't accurately map to races or ethnicities the way that they're supposed to. It's fake. It's not a real thing. However, because of the way that some people in Spain and Portugal in the 1500s decided it was a great idea to make everything on the basis of race, and that spread through Europe and then the world, right? Now we got to worry about it. And not only do we have to worry about it, but it's literally how this country was built and conceived. And it is woven into every law we have. And that's why it's not enough to merely be not racist. I'm not racist. I don't have a racist bone in my body. Okay, who cares? Are you anti-racist? Right? Are you fighting against racism in your own life, in your own home, in your own dealings with people? And this is one of the things that when I talk about how the 12 values are aspirational, because there is some way that everyone, even if you believe in them all in your bones, there's some way this society makes it so that you have to skirt how much you can fight for any of them at any given moment. And this is the thing I remind white COVID cautious folks of all the time, especially those of y'all who are real strident about it. And listen, let me preface this by saying, because I have to every time I make this criticism, that like, your girl don't leave the house without a mask on. Okay. I have not breathed any shared air with a bunch of people since 2019, basically, or the very beginning of 2020. Okay, so take it somewhere else if you think I am not as COVID conscious as you. But the problem is, y'all will be pillorying people for that, and then you'll go and have holiday dinners with people who would watch me die, who would themselves be the ones to attend my lynching. Right? We all, not a damn one of us, upholds all the values that we believe in as strongly as we would love to. So it's important that we're not so fucking precious about it. And also that we do more. Right? This world is all about these, the understanding of opposite truths. Right? That's one of the things about astrology that's great. Because maybe in each side of the zodiac, this ties in, bear with me, in each side of the zodiac, one of the signs on a particular issue may be more right on a certain issue or on a thing, but the other, their sister sign, has the truth that will complete the truth, the thing that needs to be known in order to make whole the entire thing, right? And in the case of of anti-racism. We have to understand that everybody who grows up in Western society, and actually in the world at this point, unfortunately, because we have outsourced so much of American culture, everyone has racist thoughts. Everyone in some way has to fight back against racism in their own mind, because that's how ubiquitous it is. That's how ubiquitous it is. We actually believe, a lot of us believe, or not, even if we don't believe it like cognitively, our lizard brains still have it in there, and we have to fight it, that there is like inherent differences between the races. Even though that's not true. Even though we know that, physiologically, scientifically, biologically, there is as much or more difference in between people of the same so-called race as there are between people of different races, because it's all fake. That there is more diversity between different African people than there is between an African person and a European person. That's just science. That's just science. Now, after we get past that understanding, we also have to be really aware of race and everything, because everything's racist. Everything's fucking racist in this world. Today, Memorial Day. Memorial Day was originally called Decoration Day. I didn't know this until extremely recently, like today. I was today years old when I found out that Memorial Day is a stolen holiday too. And it was a holiday it wasn't a holiday at first, but it was, a bunch of formerly enslaved people. They saw that a bunch of Union soldiers who had fought for their freedom had been interred in some, disrespectful way. And they went in and they disinterred they exhumed the bodies, and then they buried them in a place of honor. And they called this Decoration Day, and they did like a whole thing around the place, and it was a whole event, right? So that was fucking co-opted by white folks. And then the history erased. The real history of it erased. Which is a story that is so quintessentially American and so deeply racist. There is so much about this world, right? And here, the thing is, people say, you can't put race into everything. Yes, you can. In this country especially, but in this world writ large, yes, you can. Because race is involved in some way. You want to talk about music? Like, I mean, I'm a spooky girly. Like, I love goth music. I love all that sort of thing. I didn't know until recently that the first goth or heavy metal or shock rocker or whatever was fucking Screaming Jay Hawkins, right? With the skulls, with the presentation coming up out of a coffin. This man invented that fucking aesthetic and didn't get credit for it. Why? Racism, right? Who invented rock and roll? It definitely wasn't, the Fab Four, the fucking Beatles, right? We know who it was. Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Many, 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 many years before. Started the genre, right? Even we can look at someone like Chuck Berry, right? Or there are so many black folks who started things and then got erased. Obviously, we know about Elvis Presley and how Hound Dog was by fucking Big Mama Thornton, and was just whitewashed. Everything in this society has something to do with race. And the thing is that if you are a white person in this country, you have been educated to think of everything else as ethnic and you as essentially nothing, as the default. And that too is part of it, right? Because you've had your culture erased and homogenized to become a false thing known as whiteness. The thing which actually undergirds this country. And it's why so much violence can be exerted on people of other ethnicities, because there is an unhealed wound in folks that have come under the umbrella of whiteness. And what is that wound? Before the show was taken on the road, right? Who were the first victims of whiteness? White people, right? European people. Because before they could go around the world and teach people whiteness, they needed stormtroopers. And it's similar, or at least analogous to, what happens with men, cis men especially. The first victim of patriarchy, as Bell Hooks said, is the heart of the cis men, right? The first victims of whiteness were European white people who had cultures, ancient cultures, right? Ancient traditions, connections to land. Those were erased and homogenized to become part of a project that would then be taken around the world. The Inquisition. Where did the Inquisition start? The Inquisition did not start against brown people. It started against white folks. It started against European folks, right? Violently and viciously, using some of the same literal tools and torture devices, etc., that would then be used on indigenous folks, on black folks during enslavement, and all of that. But it started there, right? Re-indigenize yourself, please, right? Erase yourself from the culture of whiteness. And think about how whiteness also, the way that whiteness has metastasized itself in this country, that's why you can't fucking tell if you're in Maine or if you're in Missouri when you're in most suburbs or in most like little areas. Because it's the same four shops. It's the same concrete. It's the same architecture. It's the same. Everything looks the same. Homogenization, right? The destruction of difference, of culture, is what makes whiteness whiteness. And it is a poison. And it's a poison that you carry as a white person unless you throw it off. And it's going to be a lifelong thing. Because, and this is something that I've been thinking about so much recently. A lot of us think that, and we have been taught actually, that like, and it's a Christian thing. If you carry sin in your heart, you're a sinner, or some nonsense like that, right? I believe that we're not really responsible for our thoughts. The first thing you think is your programming. There's a lot of stuff on the inside of you that is made to stay on the inside of you, right? Your programming will have you thinking all kinds of stuff. Right? Things will just pop into your head and you'll be like, where did that come from? Well, it probably came from something you heard when you were 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 13 years old. That's just stuck in there. It's what you do and how you act in the world that matters. And that's why it's not enough to not be racist. Because to say, I'm not racist, you're actually lying to yourself and to the rest of us. Because, yeah, at some point in your life living in this country, you watched the news. And you saw the news that they were putting in front of you, which was black and brown people being accused of X, Y, and Z thing. Showing you the crime statistics in black and brown neighborhoods. Showing you all the horrible things and the ways that black and brown people were different or less fit or inherently less intelligent. Oh, yes, maybe, black folks, they're great at music and art and whatever, but they're just not as intelligent and they don't have the family structure or whatever to be part. All of these lies are things that we've all heard. And you're lying to yourself to say that you haven't heard those things, right? Now, whether or not you don't believe them, yes. And how you choose to live your life, how you choose to show up in the world for people of color. Do you show up in the real world for people of color? Do you support their work? Do you buy from them? Do you share their things? Do you actually do in the real world? Do you fight for us in rooms we're not in? Or do you just go like, I don't feel like having this fight? And guess what? No matter who the fuck you are, there has been some point, if you are a white person, where likely for your physical safety, you've actually had to be quiet about stuff you really believe in. And that's what I mean. We can't be too precious about pressing people on their values, because you fucking know that at some point you have been quiet on something you should have been quiet on, right? And I don't say that to blame or shame you. I say that to say, let's be real, right? If you actually want to be for the people, you have to be anti-racist. The first value is anti-capitalism, because capitalism subsumed race and racism in order to it's perfect as a tool to divide the working classes from each other. It's a perfect tool, right? Because you have some people thinking that they're better than others that are still in the same class, and that makes it easy to exploit all of them, sure, but it's a separate issue. And we don't do fucking class reductionism around here, because racism is too important and too singular and too separate, and also is responsible for so much pain, so much violence, right? When people talk about enslavement in history, in human history, yeah, there has been enslavement throughout human history, but United States chattel slavery was a different thing. It was a very, very different, much worse animal. And it was hereditary. Whereas previously, and if you were a slave in, say, ancient Rome or whatever, your children wouldn't necessarily be slaves, right? People enslaved their next door neighbors all the time, but the children of those enslaved people were not necessarily slaves because it wasn't hereditary. The creation of race made it so there was a visible, permanent underclass, right? And that is taken all over the place. And it's even in like brown folks, right? Because of the caste system in India. Indian folks have anti-blackness like you wouldn't fucking believe, right? And before any brown folks, any Latinx folks have some shit to say, I'm sure you've heard of mejorar la raza, okay? Right? Which is basically like lean towards the white and European in your lineage than towards the indigenous and to the brown in your lineage, right? We've all got it, and we have to fucking fight it because it is one of the foundational elements of our own enslavement. It's the reason that we let the 13th Amendment rock for so long, because white folks thought that that was just for enslaved people and therefore black people, right? That's why, like, Black Lives Matter, both times it has cropped up as a major movement. Like, a lot of folks stepped up and then fell away, receded into the background because it wasn't seen. That of course it's all connected. Of course it's all connected. Because why? Because anyone who lives under the same laws as you, right? If there's a tiny little sliver of a line being drawn between you and them, one that is arbitrary, one that is scientifically not real, that line can be redrawn at any moment, right? This is again why you have to fight for trans people. Because everything that's happening to trans folks right now, you're going to get a taste. And I'm not just saying that, I'm saying it from history. Because that's what happened when the Third Reich came to power. When they destroyed the Magnus Hirschfeld Institute, they started with, first they came for the trans people, right? When we didn't even make the fucking poem. But anyway, be anti-racist. Anti-racist. And that means you got to be brave. That means you got to be willing to say to people, hey, what the fuck did you just say? I don't know who told you that was okay. I don't know what you and your fucking white supremacist Proud Boy friends do on the weekend, but while I'm here, you're not gonna fucking say that in front of me. And if you have the physical ability to throw hands, I'm not suggesting anything illegal, but also, if you don't have the physical ability to throw hands, you have a way to make these racist people's lives hell. And you should. Because it's your fucking duty. Because guess what? Racism is not a black and brown people problem. It is a white people problem. Because we cannot undo something we did not start. Right? All isms, all of the main crimes, the main horrors, the main forms of oppression in this world have to be primarily fought by the people who could be the beneficiaries of them. If they just stayed silent and stayed complicit. Because guess what? It's all tied together. And you're not actually a beneficiary of anything. Your planet is being destroyed too by these racist goons. Right? Your future, your children's future is also being destroyed by the same people who are making these racist ass jokes about George Floyd on today, the anniversary of the day 6 years ago, when Derek Chauvin made a fucking snuff film that we all had to watch. Just one of millions of snuff films that have been made of black people. One of hundreds of, definitely thousands of lynchings of black people. Right? And I want you to think about how fucking disgusting it is. How chilling it is that for everyone who watched that and was disgusted, there were people who watched that and got a rise out of it, got a kick out of it. They fucking enjoyed it. Right? And before you say that kind of evil is like something mythological, think about, have you seen the videos of, there's a great creator who talks to, on like Omegle or something like that, talks to Israeli people, and he is Palestinian. The hatred in these people's eyes when he tells them that he is Palestinian. The ways they say they want to kill him or they want to bomb him. Or one of them actually got into his shower, not into the creator's shower, but into his own shower. And while he was on camera with this creator, started peeing in the shower and said, "I am peeing on your family." Right? And you can't say that the country that shall not be named, the fake country, is unique in this. They are the child of the United States. Right? And the United States, we're getting a lot of our ideas from Third Reich Germany. But guess where they got their ideas? They got their ideas from 1700s United States, right? It ping pongs back and forth. It really is like children. Think about the difference between Fred Trump and Donald Trump. Fred Trump was a KKK member. And his child is our president. Right? They both did all kinds of shit to make housing for black people damn near impossible whenever they had the fucking chance. Right? Everything is about race in this country. Ask Robert Moses. Why are there fucking freeways running directly through the middle of towns that used to be thriving multicultural communities that were black-led? Because they saw that people were getting together and they said, absolutely the fuck not. No, we shall not have it. We shall not have the races uniting, because if they unite, then they will see that it is all a game for the wealthy. These are our chattel. Black and white and otherwise, they are our chattel. Until we actually fight we need to be more strident. We need to be more uncompromising. And we need to do it in places where it's difficult. Right? At this point in my life, I'm not dealing with certain people. I'm just not going to do it. Whatever I could gain by dealing with them, I'm not going to have it. Right? And for a lot of y'all, full shade. A lot of y'all are just lazy when it comes to fighting against your family members. And a lot of you will say, well, it's just family. I just have to do this once or twice a year. Why? Why do you have to do it once or twice a year? There are people who share your values, who you could be building a real future, real community, where you don't have to hide who you actually are, where you don't have to lean on just the mythology that blood somehow makes you more connected with certain people. Because that's part of white supremacy too, and that's part of racism too. And that's why I often say anti-racism is one of the reasons I often say that the final boss for a lot of you motherfuckers is family. Letting family get away with shit, even when you know better. Because what does that amount to? If you are white and your family is worth throwing away your values, what are you saying? You're saying blood and soil. And who else said blood and soil in this world? What company are you putting yourself in? Right? Anyway, that is going to bring us to the end of this week's installment of the Focused on Infinity Hour, more or less. We continue to keep building and changing things around and innovating and bringing new stuff. We want every episode to be a little different, a little special, but also with threads that run through so that it's familiar, right? We ask that you do please share the stream and also just tell folks about it, mention it, and please do submit to us. Submit to us. Not like that. Keep your mind out of the gutter, okay? You're going to have to pay for that because your girl doesn't do that for free. Anyway, submit to us any ideas, any your talents, any videos, anything that you have that you can do that you think you'd want to share with the world, and that this would be a great place to share it with people who share your values, who share your love for the world and for the people in it and for the future. Share it with us. Share it with us. You know, give it a whirl, because we really do want to share more of your talents with the world. Just like we are doing our best to share ours with you. Every week. This is our 25th episode, y'all. Can you fucking believe it? 25 episodes in. And we're going to just keep doing it. And we're going to keep doing it better and bigger and bringing you more things. Mistrix and I are working on stuff basically all the time. Because, you know what? It's partially because it's fun, but also it's something we believe in. You know, we believe in this show as a way to both share entertainment and art, but also to be the change that we want to see in the world. And I also ask you to please do support all of the artists. You saw the amazing, death-defying Echo Thorn. He is a fucking phenom. And, you know, he also keeps adding skills to his danger routine roster. Square Symbols, who is always excellent. And, of course, the amazing and wise Worm. And, you know, you may have noticed just little changes and little improvements to just how the show is run and how things look and how they're going. And we're going to keep working on it. Also, please feel free to, if you have suggestions or questions or comments or anything like that, hit us up, because maybe there's something we haven't noticed that we can change, that we can do better, because that is really what we aim to do, because this show is, again, like all the things we believe in, by the people and for the people. But for now, I would love to see you again next week. Thank you from myself and from Echo Thorn and from Square Symbols and from Worm and from the amazing and inimitable Mistrix. We'll see you next week.